Hey there, this is Amelia here. Welcome to Amelia's crossdressing story. Today we are going to share a story called Trip to Paris Part 13. By Teddy. For more interesting and exclusive stories, please subscribe to my channel and support me at Patreon. On the Friday before the wedding, there was a rehearsal and dinner. And Linda sat Jamie next to Sarah Braverman, one of the bridesmaids, and her husband, Mark. Sarah and Jason started talking. Everyone in the wedding party knew that Jamie was really Jason, so Jason didn't have to try and disguise his voice. Sarah told Jason, "You know, the first time I met you, I really thought that you were a girl. You are very pretty and feminine. In fact, I thought about fixing you up with Mark's younger brother if you weren't seeing anyone. But when Linda told me that you were a guy and married to Ronnie, I just couldn't believe it. Then she showed me the pictures from your makeover, and it was just unbelievable that you made such a pretty girl." "Thank you," Jason said. "I did that makeover on a whim. Just to see what someone could do, and I was totally surprised by what Linda did. You know, if you worked on your voice, there would be no way to tell that you were male. Linda told me that too. I just don't know right now. If you decide that you want to try, give me a call." "Give you a call? Didn't Linda tell you that I'm a speech therapist and the one that helped her?" "No. I guess I need to have a little talk with her. Both my husband and I work with the transgendered. He's a psychologist." "Oh," was all that Jason could get out as Sarah handed him one of her business cards. "He helped her realize who she was, and I helped with her speech. Kind of expensive, isn't it?" "It can be. But we know that you're still in college and can probably work something out. Just give me a call if you're interested." Ronnie, who was sitting next to Jason, was listening to this conversation very closely, but trying to act like she wasn't. Saturday, Ronnie and Jason were up early getting ready for the wedding, as they had to be at the church at noon. They helped each other with their hair and makeup. Ronnie attached Jason's breast forms and applied the makeup to hide the seams. Then as Jason was helping Ronnie with her dress, she took a deep breath and said, "Honey, I have something to tell you. And I don't want you to be mad." Jason looked at her and said, "What now?" "Ah. You remember when Amy and I took wedding invitations to special people? So that we could explain about her and Linda?" "Yeah. Well, one of those special people was your mom." "What?" Jason said, sitting down hard on the bed. Ronnie couldn't tell if he was mad, scared, or what, and continued with, "Amy really likes your mom and wanted her there. I wasn't sure about it. But I couldn't talk her out of it and figured that I'd better be there when she told her." "And she's coming?" "Yes. And Mary. My mom and younger sister are going to be at the wedding. When were you going to tell me?" "No." He sat there and just looked at her. "It'll be fine," she continued. "No, it won't. What about the talk we had?" "Honey. I know. But Amy and I talked with her before we had our talk. And what?" "She knew about Jamie." "Oh God. No," and he put his face in his hands. Honey. Easy. She told us that she knew about Jamie before we said anything." Looking up at Ronnie, Jason said, "She knew. How?" "She didn't tell me. But when I told her Jamie was going to be in the wedding, she just smiled and said, 'You mean Jason, don't you?' I just looked at her in complete shock, and she said not to worry, that she has known about your dressing for a long time. And that sometimes she would tell us how she knew." Amy and I just sat and looked at her in disbelief. I figured that I'd have a lot of explaining to do. But we just had a nice talk, and she's fine with Jamie. I think mothers just know things about their children. And Mary. How much does she know? I'm not sure. I'm dead. No, you're not. Does my dad know? Your mom said that he doesn't, and he won't. He won't be at the wedding. And I know your mom said that she'd never tell him. Oh, God. I'm going to be sick. Take some deep breaths. Relax. You'll be fine. Relax. I'm going to be in a wedding in drag. And my mom and sister are going to be there. I was nervous to start with, and you knew that. Now, I'm going to be sick. And Jason ran to the bathroom. Jason came back into the bedroom a few minutes later, looking a little pale. Ronnie said, "Honey. Are you all right?" I think so. I'm glad we had a light breakfast. So, my mom and sister know about Jamie? Yeah. And they're going to be at the wedding? Ronnie just nodded yes. Jason just walked to the bedroom window and stood looking out for a few minutes. Then turned and looked at Ronnie and said, "I wish that you had told me earlier. So, that you wouldn't have promised to be in the wedding? Maybe. Or, so that I could have talked to my mother before today. You know. She has been a little different for the past couple of months." How so? I can't put my finger on it. Just different. Not in a bad way, but different. Are you still going to the wedding? I guess. A promise is a promise. And Jason added with a nervous laugh, "Catch me when I faint, when I see my mom." You won't faint. Don't count on it. Ronnie and Jason finished getting ready and drove to the church. As they parked, Jason just sat there, looking at the building. Ronnie looked at him and said, "Jamie. You look very nice. And everything will be just fine. Your mother will be fine with this. Having my mom see me like this, not to mention my little sister, is really scary. What are they going to think of me? Of you? You know. I don't think they are going to think any less of either of us. I told you that your mom said that she's known for a long time and she appeared to be fine with it. We'll have to wait and see what she says." They got out of the car, went into the church, and met with the rest of the wedding party. Ronnie took Linda and Amy aside and told them about her telling Jason about his mother being there. They all looked over to where Jason was talking to Sarah. And Amy said, "He looks very pretty. And appears to be at ease talking to Sarah. We'll see how he handles the actual wedding." "Keep your fingers crossed," Ronnie said. A little while later, all the guests had been seated and the girls were lined up for the wedding march. It would be Sarah, JoBeth, Jamie, Ronnie, Linda, and Amy. The music started and Sarah started the slow walk to the front of the church. Then JoBeth followed her. Jamie was next. As she started, she turned and just looked at Ronnie. Ronnie smiled at her and whispered, "Sweetheart. You'll be fine. Just think pretty, because you are. And don't worry about a thing." Jamie took a deep breath and started her walk down the aisle. She glanced around trying to spot her mother and sister, and did. Her mother smiled at her and her sister gave her a little wave and smile. The butterflies in her stomach quieted a little. Ronnie followed Jamie down the aisle. And after the 4 bridesmaids were at the front of the church, the music changed to the wedding march. Linda walked down the aisle, escorted by a male friend. Once she reached the front, the wedding march music started over and Amy walked down the aisle, also escorted by another male friend. The ceremony took less than half an hour and there was a reception in the church hall right afterwards. As with most wedding, there was also a reception line following the ceremony, and as the guests were leaving the church, each one congratulated the wedding couple. Jason's mother and sister had been toward the back of the church, so they were one the last to come down the reception line. Jamie nervously watched as they got closer. Ronnie whispered to her, "Honey. It's going to be fine. She loves you." As her mother walked up, Jamie tried to smile. Her mother took her feminine hand in hers, kissed her on the cheek, then looked her in the eyes, smiled, and said, "Jamie, I never realized that I had such a pretty third daughter." Jamie felt a little lightheaded. But it passed, and she said, "Hi, Mom." "Hello, daughter." you and Ronnie be sure to come and sit with us when you get a chance. And smile. You have such a pretty smile. Jamie bent over and gave her mother a kiss on the cheek. She squeezed her hand and moved on to Ronnie. She tried to hear what her mom and Ronnie were saying to each other, but couldn't. Jamie's sister Mary walked up to her and said, "Hi sis. That gown looks fantastic on you. I'm jealous." "Don't be. You'd look better in it." "And, sis?" "Yeah. You're too pretty for me to call you brother." She also gave Jamie a kiss on the cheek, smiled, and moved on to Ronnie. Jamie heard her sister say to Ronnie, "You said he made a pretty girl, and you were right. I can't believe it." After all the guests had made it through the reception line, the wedding party moved into the church hall. It was decorated nicely, and there was a wedding cake with 2 brides on it. There were also a number of tables set up, and those guests not standing around talking had found seats. The wedding party mingled, and Jamie finally made it over to where her mother and sister were sitting, with 4 other guests. She whispered to her mother, "Ronnie and I will be back as soon as it clears out a little." "That's all right, honey. Take your time," his mother replied. About an hour later, most of the guests had left, and Ronnie saw that Jamie's mother and sister were now sitting by themselves. She found Jamie and said, "No better time than now." "What?" Jamie said. "Your mom and sister are alone at their table. Let's go talk." "I don't know. I'm really nervous about this." "I know. But she wants to talk." "All right. Let on." Ronnie and Jamie walked over to her mother and sister's table. As they walked up, her mother said, "Sit down. Those heels must be killing you." Ronnie and Jamie both sat down, and no one said anything for a while. Finally, Jamie's sister broke the silence with, "I'm glad you're already married, Jamie. The competition for the boys is bad enough." Jamie looked at her, smiled a little, and said, "You shouldn't have a problem there, little sister. Besides, I don't like boys." "Yeah. But they'd still be chasing you." Ronnie, with a smile, responded with, "Doesn't matter. She's mine." Jamie finally looked at her mother and said, "You're disappointed in me. Aren't you, Mom?" "Why would I be?" she asked. "I'm your son. And I'm sitting here looking more like your daughter. Honey. I love you. That's all that counts. Jason is a handsome son, Jamie is a very pretty daughter, and she is just part of Jason. And I love you. So, I love both of you. I'm just surprised as to how pretty you look." Ronnie said, "You knew." "How?" "It wasn't hard. Mothers know a lot of things about their children, and I've known about this little part of you for a long time. Back when you had your little clubhouse in the basement, I found your stash of girls' clothes. Then, there were the times that Beth had yelled at Mary about her things being moved. Mary came to me and said that she hadn't touched Beth's things. And that only left one person. Then, during your senior year, I found a number of the things that Beth had left at home when she went away to college, moved. And, again I put 2 and 2 together. And, recently there have been some subtle changes in you. Your mannerisms have softened, and your eyebrows have become feminine. But, I think only a mother would notice that. That's all for now. See you in the next video. For more interesting stories, please subscribe to our channel, and for exclusive content, please join us on Patreon. Link in the comment.